Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. We got actually a different camera now, so hopefully this is a bit better of quality. It's looking pretty good on my side. Not so sure about the angle yet. A little bit wonky. I have an old desk set up here, so I'm not sure exactly about this placement. Maybe we'll try something else. But thank you so much for joining in. And, today we actually got some interesting stories to really be going through. I mean, just a lot of crazy stuff has happened. That doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of news just yet. For one, Florida lawmakers are apparently trying to ban any transgender drugs or surgeries for minors, which is just, this is why you gotta love Florida. This is why you have got to love Florida, right? They are just going all at it when it comes to a lot of these bills, really trying to, of course, defend the innocence of children, as well as making sure they don't do anything too crazy when it comes to, life-altering changes. Another big thing we got here is Ukraine apparently got caught committing some more war crimes. So that should be kind of interesting to talk about, especially because, I don't know, I guess I have kind of a interesting take on the whole ordeal altogether. But we also got some just insane news happening over at the southern border as well. So if you remember the Biden phone or the Obama phones back during the Obama administration, where he gave free phones out to basically people who were under a certain income bracket, Biden's basically one-upping him here and now giving taxpayer phones to illegal immigrants. And Texas is tired of it. Texas is done with it. And now, because of all this stuff that's happening on the border, Texas is now trying to send the illegal immigrants through charter buses to DC, saying, it's their problem, let them deal with it, right? I mean, don't mess with Texas. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let's go and jump to this first story here. So, we got, again, a Florida lawmaker wants to ban transgender drugs and surgery for minors. Just, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. A Florida lawmaker wants to ban giving drugs to or performing surgeries on minors for gender assignment. Florida Rep. Randy Fine. I don't know who you are, Randy Fine, but fantastic job. Fantastic job. I'm not even going to make a joke about that name because that name is filled with jokes. Tweeted on Monday that he will introduce legislation to the next session to make it a crime of felony child abuse to provide these services to minors, punishable by prison time and loss of medical license. We should not have children making decisions they cannot undo, said Fine. Thank you. Thank you. That's one thing we've been talking about so long. These are decisions they cannot undo. All right, we're talking about children here. We're talking about prepubescent children in most of these instances where they are getting hormone blockers. In many ways, these are young boys and girls. Young boys are chemically castrating themselves. Young girls are taking testosterone, which is just steroids, mind you. All right, I mean, it's funny. Maybe it's because I came from a boxing background where I did boxing for a couple years, and there's people in the gym who did steroids. There's female boxers who took some Anavar, which is a very low-level steroid that, it does a lot of benefit for when it comes to building muscle and endurance, things like that, but it doesn't have as many side effects as stuff like D-bol and some of the other forms of steroids would give you. But even when they took some light stuff like Anavar, it changed them. It changed them. And these are changes that you don't get back, right? I mean, when it comes to, especially with females, if you start giving testosterone in their younger years and they start developing these secondary, sexual characteristics of men, like growing out facial hair and stuff, listen, that's not going to change. Their voice is going to deepen, right? If you take steroids, your voice will deepen. Even as a man, your voice will deepen. So, I don't know, maybe I need to take some steroids. I could use a bit deeper of a voice. But it deepens your voice. And that's like they'll never get back. They'll never have their feminine voice back again. For men, if you start taking different if you start taking these test blockers and things like that, they're giving these young boys, their testosterone will bounce back a little bit if they choose to get off of it, but more than likely it's going to stay well below average when it comes to what their natural test level should be, right? You are literally causing them a medical issue for life they're going to have to work with. Either A, they're going to have to take different type of hormones for the rest of their life in general to remain trans, or B, they're going to try to detransition, which we're seeing increases in all across the world at this point, especially when you look at places like the UK. And they're going to have to start getting on like TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, when they're in their 20s. Okay, this is not These are not temporary changes. These are life-altering changes, and we're allowing 10-year-olds to do these sort of things. It is absolutely insane when we really look at how all this stuff is going down. Now, I know some people still say, oh, well, it's still their decision, their decision, their decision. Listen, they cannot give consent. They are children. They cannot give consent to this sort of stuff, right? We have laws on consent. There's certain things children cannot do. A young girl cannot go to a plastic surgeon and get breast implants, right? All right, a young boy cannot request to get, the I can't think of the name all of a sudden, the snip to make sure you can't have kids, right? There's certain things that you cannot do if you're below a certain age. Even if you have parents' permission, they will not allow you to do, and for good reason, because you're a child. You're a child. You don't know anything. All right, none of us did. None of us as children knew anything. But these are life-altering changes that we're talking about here. So he continued to say, now my bill would not say that if you're a boy and you think you're a girl that you cannot have people call you a girl, dress like a girl, or go to mental counseling to talk about it. It simply says you have to wait until you're an adult, which is fair. I think that is fair. Now, frankly, I still say even doing the social transitioning is still akin to child abuse because, and for one, if you're a kid who's suffering through gender dysphoria, typically you're going to grow out of it. Over 90% of the cases, they grow out of it by the time they're 18 and live very healthy and normal lives afterwards. If you allow them to continue to be transgender, well, guess what? Now you've signed them up for an issue that's now going to give them about a 50-50 chance of themselves or not, right? So, and that's the thing, right now in the trans community, suicides overall, they're about 40 to 50%. And that's transition or not transition, it doesn't matter. That is you living in LA versus you living in like the Bible Belt. It doesn't matter. Those statistics stay relatively the same. All right, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about signing these children up for a lifestyle that has a higher rate of suicide than the slaves did, for God's sake. I mean, and I'm sorry, I don't think trans people are more discriminated against than slaves were, right? It is I'm not sure if I'm going to get in trouble with YouTube here saying this or not, but overall it is a mental illness called gender dysphoria. Now, I have people who I know who are adults who have it. Their argument to me was very simple. There is no cure for this. Therefore, I feel better if I dress and act this way. And to a point, I respect that. I think as an adult, you're allowed to do whatever the heck you want for the most part. I'm more libertarian in that regard. I don't have to go along with it. I don't have to call you ma'am. I don't have to, I don't have to, it's ma'am. No, it's not. It's sir. It's sir. I'm going to keep calling you sir. I'm going to keep calling you what you are. But you have a right to dress and act however you want to act. That is your prerogative, not mine. You can choose to do that. It does not matter. It will not matter. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You're going to say what you're going to say. And we're going to go our separate ways if we don't agree. That's fine. That's fine. But what we're talking about here is children. Children who don't even know what they're going to do next year, let alone for the rest of their lives. So, Fine specifically singled out plastic surgery doctor in Miami, who he said advertises her gender confirmation services on TikTok. No reason to keep your kids off TikTok. There you go. I don't think if you're trying to market services to an adult, or I don't think if you're going, or if I can't say it all of a sudden, if you're trying to market your services to an adult, Fine said before shifting gears. I don't know about you. I don't use TikTok, but my 14-year-old does. Well, there you go. Yeah, it does lean more to the younger demographic. However, if they want to advertise on TikTok that they do gender surgery, again, I think adults should be allowed to do it. I think that's fine. Andrew Lind, a transgender health advocate for Equality Florida, said, Rep, these procedures aren't assigning a gender. That's not even what it is, Lind said. It's gender affirmation because people already know what their gender, or already know gender they identify with. Well, actually, not entirely, because people typically, again, for young kids, change their mind and continue on with what they are. So no, they do not. When you look at the stats, when it comes to below the age of 18, they don't know. When they're saying they're trans, they don't know. Over 90% of them decide to go and live a normal life and have no issues going forward. They grow out of it. So that's not the case for the people they're talking about in this bill. I love how they put that article right there. Like, come on, really? Lenz said these decisions should be left up to a doctor, the patient, and their family. He also pointed out that many transgender youth don't use hormones or surgery during their transitions. Okay, so if they don't use hormones or surgery during the transitions, what's the harm in outlawing hormones and surgery for people who are under the age of 18? What's the harm in it? Please tell me. Leave in the comments below. What is the harm in it? Because I don't know what it is. Sam Scharf is a student at Hillsborough Community College, majoring in psychology and gender studies. At 18, she began transitioning, now 21. She says she's much happier and finally feels like herself. So, himself. I'm very happy. I've accomplished things I never would have thought possible in my past. I wouldn't be alive today if I wasn't allowed to transition. Again, according to Fine, the bill does not stop her from transitioning or him from transitioning. It simply says if you're under the age of 18. That's what he says he's going to be pushing. Under the age of 18, minors. When Sam first heard about the proposal from State Rep Randy Fine, she was shocked and disappointed. As a messenger of state leader of Bedford County, I would tell him to speak to a trans person for once. I feel like that's all he has to do. I feel that's all he has to do to see how incorrect he is. Incorrect about what? Saying that children can't make up their mind about gender. That children cannot get surgery, I should say. He's even saying they should be allowed to make up their mind on that. He's even saying that, yes, this should be allowed for them to actually transition socially. He's saying they can't get surgery. But here's, if this bill goes through, they're going to play the same game they played with the Don't Say Gay bill, right? Where it had nothing to do with anything they were saying. It had nothing to do with not being able to say gay. You could say gay all you want in school. It will not. You're not in trouble. You're okay to say it. Yet they claimed it was a Don't Say Gay bill. They're going to do the same thing. If this bill goes through, they're going to claim that this is going to ban transition probably for all. Like, it's going to be like the anti-transition bill or something like that is what they're going to call it. And that's what the media is going to call it. And everyone's going to think, just as they thought that the Don't Say Gay bill, again, only applied to every school when it only applied to kindergartners through third grade, they're going to say this anti-transition bill is going to apply to all people, or they're going to imply that it applies in every way, shape, and form, including social transition. When it doesn't. It only, according to him, it's only going to say that, only ban drugs and surgeries. And that's it. That's it. So what's the harm here? They're underage in the first place. And here's the thing, they're constantly pushing the trans stuff down our throats at this point, right? I mean, they are really trying to push it as much as they can, which is absolutely insane because they're almost excited when people come out to be trans. Like, they get really, really happy. Even, I don't mean in the sense of going like, hey, good for you kind of happy. I mean as in, yes, another one. Like, they get really overboard excited about it, which is just kind of disturbing. It's just kind of disturbing when you really think about it, isn't it? You're celebrating that someone has an affliction that's going to almost torture them for the rest of their lives. I mean, even people who transition and have very good transition with people who affirm everything about them, they still struggle daily because it's not what they are. They're mentally something different than they are actually, right? That they have, again, a very unfortunate mental condition. A very unfortunate mental condition that makes them feel they are something different than they actually are. How is that a good thing? How is that something we should be happy about? I mean, I don't go, yay, your kid's wearing glasses. All right, he doesn't have 20/20 vision. Woo! Yeah, that's not what I do, right? I wear contacts, by the way, so I can joke. I can make 4 eyes jokes. But we don't celebrate people having these conditions. Yay, you have ADHD. Woohoo! I have ADHD. I can make that joke. We don't celebrate these conditions. We say, oh, dang, that kind of sucks. Well, so I guess what are you going to do about it? I mean, right? If you have ADHD, for the most part, I don't take anything for it. I just live with it and deal with it, incorporate that into who I am, and try to find activities that will kind of benefit from having ADHD for the most part. I don't know what the answer is for trans. I'll be honest. I don't know what the answer is for trans, but what I do know is we shouldn't celebrate it as much as we do. It should be something that we look at and just go, Okay, what's next? And we should take a very analytical approach to kind of the trans issue in general. Again, because these people aren't bad people. I want to make this very clear. When it comes to trans people, these aren't bad people in any sense of the word. But you know, I would never wish what they have to go through on my worst enemy, because again, it's something they're going to struggle with till the day they die. I mean, that's a difficult thing to struggle with. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine not being comfortable with who you are as just a person, not be able to even accept what you were even born as. I mean, it boggles the mind to think this is what these people are going through. So I do have sympathy for them, but they're trying to push other people to try to be the same, and that's kind of crazy. And before you say, "Oh, they're not really pushing," you know, here's a tweet from Nickelodeon. So let's watch this real quick.
In honor of International Transgender Day of Visibility, meet Time and Nickelodeon's 2021 Kid of the Year finalist, Rebecca Brusahoff.
Growing up in the LGBTQ plus community has given me a different perspective on how I see the world. Trans kids are so much more than their gender identity, and it's so important for people to listen to kids. I wish for a world where everyone can be lifted up and celebrated.
So today, and every day, we celebrate those who are helping others realize that everyone should be proud of what makes them who they are.
Now I get it. They're saying be proud of who you are. Who could oppose this message? Be proud of who you are. You know, Nickelodeon up here just so you can see. This is on Nickelodeon's official Twitter page. And it's funny they say Kids' Choice Awards right there too, because they're very, you know, obviously this is for kids. This is very I remember Nickelodeon doing stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? You know, or Chalk Zone. You know, who didn't love Chalk Zone? Or Hey Arnold, right? Now I was more of a Cartoon Network kid myself, you know. You got Superman, Batman, Justice League, Teen Titans. You know, I was a big DC fan, so obviously Cartoon Network, Kids Next Door, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog. I mean, Cartoon Network ruled, right? Cartoon Network was way better than Nickelodeon. But Nickelodeon, at least back in my day, I sound like an old man. Back in my day, at least, Nickelodeon just had regular commercials, and really, it didn't do crazy crap like this, celebrating someone having this issue with them. Again, because it's an issue, right? And not to be disrespectful to the kid. Listen, say the person's name is Rebecca. It's a boy. I'll say Rebecca. I'll say Rebecca because you can change your name, right? You can change your name. But this boy is going to have a tough life. They're going to have problems as he get older. You saw that with I can't think of their name at the moment, but that one boy who transitioned to a girl who was like everywhere. They were supposed to go to college and all this crazy stuff, and instead they gained like a bunch of weight. They had like a complete bottom surgery done, and apparently just had constant issues with it as well. Had depression. Like they came out with a statement saying, well, they can't be alone right now. I mean, these are the issues these people are dealing with, and we're encouraging it to a certain level. We're celebrating people with these issues. It kind of reminds me of when we were celebrating stuff like single mothers in a way. No offense to single mothers out there, obviously. I mean, it's not always up to you if you become a single mother, but it was kind of funny how like we almost held single motherhood up as a higher level than just traditional family. And it's like, no, one is a bunch of hardship, very difficult stuff, and I don't know how y'all do it, versus one is the right path that young girls should be pushing towards, you know, actually having a solid family with a husband and kids. You know, same thing when it comes to boys, of course, they should be pushed into finding wives and getting married and having kids as well. I had someone comment on one of my videos, what do I know about marriage? What do you know about all this stuff? Well, I mean, I've been happily married for like 3 years now, and I have 2 kids. Like, what can I say? But it's weird that right now we seem to be celebrating things that are causing people problems, that are causing people suffering. Right? This shouldn't be celebrated. This isn't a good thing that this person is trans. It's a thing that they're going to have to now deal with for the rest of their life. And again, with the suicide rate the way it is right now in the trans community, it's kind of a dangerous thing. It really is. And again, have sympathy for these people. I have full sympathy for these people. And again, when they turn 18, they can do whatever they want. But this is Nickelodeon putting on their commercials for all the kids to see. So when you see your kid in front of Nickelodeon, what are they going to come back to you and say? I mean, again, we were coming back to our parents and maybe making a somewhat inappropriate joke or something like that, or me going to my dad going, man, you should have saw the Joker and Batman do this thing, right? Like, we didn't, it wasn't really that bad at all. I mean, there were some things that you could point to that were sure on the line, but it wasn't this overt. And the things that normally pushed the line in a lot of cartoons back in our day was stuff like violence, right? And frankly, kids understand violence. I mean, you know, my 1-year-old, he's just starting to get to a point where he's starting to like hit stuff a little bit, but you know, kids start understanding violence at a very young age. When it comes to this sort of stuff, no, they do not. They do not understand it until they start going through puberty, and even then afterwards, it's still somewhat difficult to really understand what all these hormones really means in your body. But I mean, this is how crazy it's getting though at the times, right? So you have the trans stuff, of course, happening in Florida. They're saying, you know, don't say gay bill, and I did want to. This is something that I wasn't going to bring up before, but I saw this today, and I really wanted to pull in here. This is Senator Dick Durbin objecting to Senator Hawley's legislation seeking a toughening sentence on child offenders. These guidelines do not reflect the reality of today. We live in a world of internet access and to thousands of the images, if that is your decision. This is your modern left. Your modern left is defending chemically castrating young boys, is pushing trans messaging and cartoon channels for children, and now opposing harsher legislation on child abusers. That is the modern Democrat Party today. And it is no wonder that right now Republicans have been doing so well in regards to winning on social issues. So, I don't know what to say about it. It is astounding. Florida, they are leading the way right now. They are just absolutely leading the way. Love to see it. You know, again, this is the sort of stuff that makes you just kind of start thinking, North Carolina, maybe I want to go. Maybe I might want to go to Florida. Maybe I might want to go to Florida. Though it looks like Florida's mentality is starting to spread a little bit, which is good. So, thank you, Florida, leading the way as normal. Let's hope that bill gets passed. All right, so now on to our next story. The Ukrainian conflict. Now, I don't normally talk about what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, and here's kind of the reason why, okay? So when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, I'm going to go full screen for this real quick. When it comes to Ukraine and Russia, there is so much propaganda out there, you have no idea what's true. No idea whatsoever. Goes to Kiev, it looks like it never happened. You had the island where they said, you know, F you, Russian warship. And it looks like they said that. They didn't die, though. It looks like they just were taken as POWs. You have Russia putting out their propaganda nonstop as well, right? So Russia is bad in this situation, right? They are invading another country. So, of course, they are the villains of this story, but it does not mean the people they're fighting against are inherently good. And I want to make this very clear. When we look at war, we kind of have this child's eye when it comes to it. We actually believe that if someone's fighting an evil country, it means they're inherently a good country. We have this idea that if you're fighting, let's say, the Nazis in World War II, you must be the United States, or you must be, you know, England or France, these objectively good countries by comparison to Germany. But let's not forget, we also had the Soviet Union fight Germany. And objectively speaking, the Soviet Union is far worse than Germany in that regard, right? The Soviet Union was far worse than the Nazi regime. They killed hundreds of millions more people. Hundreds of millions more people. I can't express it enough. Read, Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, but it's a must read. Read the Gulag Archipelago, right? It is a very, very, very important book that should be required reading for everyone out there. It is over there on that bookshelf. I should probably pull it up right here. I should probably put it on this one. I should probably take a reread through it sometime soon. But really read what went on in the Soviet Union and understand the fact of they were our allies even in World War II. They were not the good guys. They were on the good side, but they were not good guys. World War I, there was really no good or evil. It was just kind of two countries facing each other. Most wars in the world have either been between two bad countries or kind of almost neutral, right? It's not always good versus evil here. And so this story here really, I think, goes to show that. So a video posted online on Monday and verified by the Times appears to show Ukrainian soldiers killing captured Russian troops outside the village of West Kiev on or around March 30th as Russians were withdrawing. And basically, here's the article here, but it's easier just to read it in this thread. This is Ethan Hill, who is Visual Investigations with the New York Times. And yes, look, he's got his nice little check mark up there. So I'm not going to show the video for obvious reasons, because it's pretty freaking bad, and you can look it up if you like. It's pretty awful. This is a quote. "He's still alive. Film these marauders. Look, he's still alive. He's gasping," a man says, as a Russian soldier with a jacket pulled over his head, apparently wounded, seems to breathe. A soldier then shoots the man twice. He keeps moving. The soldier shoots him again, and he stops. 3 other apparent Russian soldiers, including the one with the obvious head wound, whose hand is tied behind his back, are seen dead near the victim, all wearing camouflage, all 3 having white armbands commonly worn by Russian troops, with equipment scattered all around. So here's just some of the equipment all scattered around. Apparently they're used by the Russian airborne units. Video was filmed kind of talking about how it was confirmed with some of this stuff. And apparently it's been going on where some of the Russian atrocities have been alleged, which, again, you never know exactly what's true and not when it comes to because of the propaganda war, but more than likely there's been atrocities committed by Russia. And they're invading a country. What do you expect? The killings appear to be the result of Ukrainian ambush, posted videos and pictures of the destroyed column on Twitter on April 2nd, and wrote the soldiers told him that Russians had been ambushed 48 hours earlier. Ukrainian Defense Ministry also tweeted about the destruction of the convoy, calling it precise work. "These are not even humans," a Ukrainian soldier says. He walks among the wrecked vehicle and adding that they took 2 Russian lieutenants prisoner. Soldiers identified with the blue armband as part of Ukraine. Yep. And I believe I would like to see for sure, but I think they talk about the fact of this is also work of the Azov, the Nazi battalion in Ukraine. I'm not 100% sure. I thought I saw something else saying that this was committed by the Azov battalion, which is, if you don't know, a evil Nazi battalion in Ukraine who fight out Ukraine. These are people who actually hold Hitler Youth rallies and crap. These are honest to God Nazis. This isn't like, oh, Ben Shapiro is a Nazi. No, these are the actual ones, right? And here's the thing. If anything, this really goes to show war crimes really don't mean much, right? And what I mean by that is, we like to say, all these war crime laws that were passed, all they really were for is for countries to be able to sleep soundly at night after World War II. Right? We got together and said, how can we make sure that these type of atrocities never happen again? The issue is, the minute a real war breaks out, and I mean a real war, you got this. Right? You got more war crimes being committed by both sides. Here. And it's why a lot of these laws don't really make any sense of anyone really abiding by for the most part. And here's the thing. The laws that people abided by, even prior to the Geneva Convention or anything like this, were done for pragmatic reasons. They didn't do it out of the goodness of their heart. They didn't say, we're not going to torture because we don't believe torture is right. No, they said we're not going to torture because if we torture our prisoners, they're going to torture their prisoners. All right, it's kind of a mutual understanding. You don't torture our guys, we won't torture your guys, which helps boost morale for both sides, knowing that, no matter what happens, they're not going to get tortured. It was agreed upon for mutual benefit, not just because it was the morally correct thing to do. All right, so war crime laws don't really mean anything. The ones that are pragmatic will still exist. The ones that aren't will go away. And right now, with Ukraine basically on the verge of destruction, they're willing to do whatever it takes at this point to just survive it, which is understandable. Listen, if Russians landed in North Carolina and started marching through my family's land, which have been here for over 100 years, guess what? I'm digging my boots in, and you can be sure as hell I'm going to do whatever I can to stop them. I won't give a damn about any laws, right? No one would. If it's your house they're marching through, you're not going to care that it's against the Geneva Convention to set up some booby traps. You're just going to do it. Why? Because you're defending your home. And I'm not saying what these people did were right. And it's terrible. It's awful when you really look at it. I mean, someone down on the ground wounded, and you go, oh, look, he's still breathing. And you shoot him multiple times, and he's still breathing. You shoot him again afterwards. It's not good. It's evil. It's bad. Bad people fight for both sides in any conflict, that's for sure. At the same time, you know, I say that these things are kind of to be expected. This shows that, if anything, this just shows that the Geneva Convention doesn't mean anything. It never has, it never will. The only laws that will remain are the ones that are pragmatic to implement for both sides. That's it. That's it. You know, one of the reasons why we stopped using flamethrower troopers, or, you know, flame troopers basically, after like World War II or so, countries basically were saying, we're not going to ever take those guys prisoners because what they're doing is just fucking terrible for our people. We're going to kill them every time. It made people very reluctant to put on that gas tank and go around trying to burn people, right? It made people very, it lowered their morale quite a bit. So, of course, we started backing off, saying, you know what, yeah, it probably is a little bad. Yeah, we won't do it anymore. But we didn't do it because it wasn't we were really morally thinking about it. We were looking at a pragmatic reason of going, well, we don't want our troops to be demoralized. And we were looking at modern warfare and going, this probably isn't going to really do much into the future anyway. It was for a pragmatic reason. It wasn't because we just grew a heart all of a sudden. Our heart didn't grow 10 times its original size, right? That's not what happened. We just said, okay, well, you know what? That kind of makes sense for both of our sides, so we'll do that. Yeah, sure, we'll do that. War laws only exist as long as it benefits both sides. That's it. That's all they do. They exist as long as they benefit both sides of the conflict. Ukraine, man, you gotta get some of your people probably under control, but overall, listen, they're the ones being invaded. I'm not saying Russia doesn't have some valid complaints. Listen, what NATO has done, we've poked the bear. We've poked the bear for sure, and the bear is now starting to bite. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. We caused this probably even more so than Ukraine caused this. And let's also not forget, I say my family's land has been, you know, the family land has been in our family for over 100 years here in North Carolina. Ukraine hasn't been a country for even 50. So let's kind of understand that too when it comes to the Russian side of all this. Again, not saying they're the right side, because I believe in consent of the governed, which means if Ukraine does not want to be governed by Russia, fuck them, right? They should have no right to be able to go in there and impose their rule militarily like that. So Russia still is the big bad. Russia's up here, but Ukraine's still about right here. All right? They're still bad. It's just different levels of bad. Ukraine has still committed multiple atrocities. Ukraine has still imprisoned people for political reasons. Ukraine does have a major Nazi problem. It really does. I mean, even Zelensky used to joke about the fact that he wanted to get a copy of Mein Kampf to make sure he could fit in, but what do you know, they were all sold out. I mean, this is well known for a lot of people over there. Do they make up a huge portion of the population? Probably not, but it is a problem. Ukraine is not a good country, but it's a hell of a lot better than Russia, and right now they, of course, are doing whatever they can to survive. But it is important to call this stuff out when it happens, right? It's still important to make sure we keep it even, just keep a level head when it comes to all this stuff. Listen, when you say, go Ukraine, woo, we support Ukraine, understanding you are supporting this. You're also supporting this. So you can say, hey, yeah, Ukraine, keep it up, good job, guys. But maybe don't go so over the top with it, because, man, Ukraine's not exactly the greatest place ever. And just, it's a terrible situation. And the worst part is, again, we can barely trust we can even barely trust this story, to be perfectly honest. It's on video, and they claim it's been confirmed, but what you gonna do? Right? What you gonna do? So, I also want to bring up, let's see. There we go. Jen Psaki. All right, Jen Psaki. Let's hear what she has to say when it comes to some of the immigration issues we are currently facing.
Thank you, Jen. First, on immigration, our team in Texas is saying that you guys are starting to give smartphones to border crossers, hoping that they'll use the phones to check in or to be tracked. Which part of that is supposed to deter people from crossing illegally into the States?
Well, I think you, of all people, since you've asked me a range of questions on this topic over time, would recognize that we need to take steps to ensure that we know where individuals are and we can track and we can check in with them. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. First, on immigration, our team in Texas.
So, like I said before, you remember the Obama phones? Well, now we got Biden phones. Biden phones going to illegal immigrants crossing the border. Now, here's the funny thing that I love about this is a lot of the defense of this has been, well, we got to use it to call them, make sure they show up to court. Or you could just put them in prisons until their court date. I mean, I'm just saying. But yeah, that's what's. But I'm like, do you really expect them to really answer? If they're going to avoid it, they're going to avoid it, right? They're going to either ditch the phone or they're just going to not. They're going to say, yeah, sure, I'll show up on Monday, and then not show up on Monday, right? That doesn't really do anything to stop people from breaking into the country illegally. 2, they then say, well, we got to track them. We got to track them. And I don't think people realize how terrifying that is. Now, we know our phones are pretty much trackers, right? These are tracking device for the most part. But this is people who are literally just saying, oh yeah, it's great. The government can make sure they just know where they are at any given time, right? They're just going to track these people to make sure they can hunt them down by using their cell phone to triangulate their position, I guess. I don't know. The fact that they're actually saying, oh, it's so good, we can track people in the country using their phone without them even knowing about it. That's kind of disturbing, right? And that's got to be a little disturbing. We're giving free phones to these people. And they say free phones. No. What it is we paid for their phones, right? It's taxpayer phones. Let's be clear about this. There's nothing free that the government ever gives. It's taxpayer funded, which means that money they took out of you this year for tax season, guess what? Went to these phones. I guarantee you all of my family's taxable income for the entire year, we would not pay for even half of these phones. All right, and this is how much the government spends without even thinking about it. I mean, free phones to illegal immigrants. Yeah, let's just give them a bunch of free phones. That works out. That will work out so well. But Texas they've been tired of this. They have been just sick of it. And Governor Greg Abbott has actually, I think, done something that's going to be that's a little bit trolling in a way, but is kind of hysterical at the same time to me. Like, it might actually be pretty a smart move here, too. It might be a upgrade from the Freedom Convoy. So how about the illegal immigrant convoy? So Texas Greg Abbott to send buses of migrants to D.C. ahead of Title 42 surge. Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered state troopers on Wednesday to begin stopping and inspecting commercial vehicles along the United States-Mexico border, and said bus charters would be offered to take illegal migrants to Washington, D.C. in a dig at President Biden and Congress. With only 7 weeks to go until the Biden administration lifts Title 42 immigration order, Abbott announced multiple measures to protect his state and combat the massive influx of migrants anticipated to cross the border this spring. To help local officials, because communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration. Texas is providing charter buses for these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off to Washington, D.C., the Republican governor said Wednesday. We're sending them to the United States Capitol, where the Biden administration will be able to more immediately address the needs of the people that they are allowing to come across our border, he said. Soon after Greg Abbott signed the order directing Texas Division of Emergency Management to head up the operation, Texas officials also said they would begin to increase military activity on the southern border to install razor wire at some low water along the river to deter migrants from crossing. So real quick, this is downright genius. I love it. I absolutely love it. So Biden, obviously, it's not the Texans who want the illegal immigrants crossing, right? Texas does not want to deal with this problem. They want the United States government to do their damn job. So, but the government says, oh, but no, we got to help these people. We need to help these people. They have all these needs that we need help with. So Greg Abbott says, all right, well, why don't we send them over to you so you can better address their needs? Now, this kind of reminds me back during the Black Lives Matter riots, where at first there was that one journalist going, "Yeah, look at them destroy this part of town. Woohoo! Good job, Black Lives Matter. Fantastic. You know, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter." Just going crazy about it. And later he had a tweet going out, "What? They're coming into our suburban neighborhood. Oh God, what are we supposed to do? We didn't do any of this. Why do we deserve it? We don't deserve it. No. Get the police out here. Please stop them." Democrats love these kind of people until they have to deal with these kind of people. And again, I'll say it a dozen times over. I've said it in multiple past videos. I understand why people would want to cross the border and leave the hellholes that are over in Central and South America and come over here. I totally get it. I would too. That's not the issue. The issue is, what does it then cause here? Obviously, it causes higher unemployment. And people go, "Oh, if they took your job, you should better at your job." Or they're taking the jobs that people aren't willing to do. You know, they aren't willing to do them because typically they don't pay well. So guess what would happen if no one was doing the job? They would increase the damn pay. That's how the system works. The system works that the job will pay what people are willing to get paid. If you're not willing to get paid that amount and you leave, and then you bring in a bunch of people in who are willing to work for even less than that amount, that wage will never go up. You wonder why we have wage stagnation in this country. It has nothing to do with the businesses. It has everything to do with the fact of we are bringing in hordes after horde of, and there are hordes. There are hordes of people coming in at these waves at a time coming in. They're coming in, and it dilutes our labor market. It dilutes our labor market by having more people than we can actually sustain in the country. And there's a limit to this sort of stuff. And not even talking about illegal immigration. We're talking even legal immigration. We have too much immigration, period. It used to be we would take in some people and then give them time to assimilate and then take in more. We didn't sit there and have this continuous spread of people constantly coming to the country. I mean, there's also so many other issues. Let's face it. If they are, let's say they are actually sending their best. Let's say the Democrats are right, and the people coming across the border are, the future business owners of America, and they're going to establish, all these great things and help our country out so much. Well, don't we've just done? We just took someone who would have been the difference maker in their hellhole of a country, who could have actually turned it into something worthwhile, and we have poached that person and brought him over here. I don't think that's entirely right. I don't think it's right for us to say, "Hey, yeah, just if you're smart, come over here and we'll help you out." I think it takes away from these countries that actually need the intelligent ones to stay there. All right, Honduras needs people who are good people. So if the people coming across the border, all the Honduras immigrants coming across the border, if they are all good people, then what would serve them better is to stay in their country and to can fix it already. The country is only as bad as the people let it to become, for the most part. And for the most, you see it's even here, right? Chicago was absolutely just a hellhole because they have let it become a hellhole. There's not really that big of a difference when it comes to any city in America, except for the fact of the leadership and the people who live there. People who live there had decided, we want laws that will make this place a hellhole. The Democrats keep acting like these immigrants who are coming over the border are coming over here and they just happen to come from bad areas. They just happen to come from bad areas. These areas just happen to be bad areas. Honduras is bad not because the people of Honduras have allowed it to become bad, but instead it is bad just because, well, we don't know. It just happens to be that way. No, the people have let it become that way. The people have allowed El Salvador to be a terrible place to live. The people have allowed the cartels to take over in Mexico. The people have allowed these things to happen. And until the people decide to stand up, there really isn't much more you can say about it other than, why are we letting the people who allowed that happen to their country come into our country? All right, I'm tired of it. I am absolutely tired of it. I don't care if they're Hispanic. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're Asian. I don't care if you're white. If you're coming over here from, if you're one of the people who actually are Russian citizens who supports Russia and supports many of the laws they have in place, I don't want you here. I don't care that you're white. I don't want you here. If you're someone from Mexico who is living in a country and completely allowed it to become the way it is, why do I think that you're going to make this place better? And even if you do, man, you could have been the person to help change your home country. All right? If you are a good person, you should stay and fix your country. That would be the better solution for much of the issues going on in the world. What's going on in places like Africa, right? Where, and they act like, oh, it just happens to be poor. It just happens to be people starving to death. No, nothing just happens in that regard. They have chosen a government system that fails them. They have chosen to stay where they are and do what they're doing. They have chosen to stay in place. And those who could actually make a difference in their country say, I'd rather come to America. And I get it. I totally get it. I would too. But in the end, you're causing more harm to your home country when you leave it at that point. So you also have to ask that question too. Is it morally right for us to take all the people who would be the difference makers, who could actually help these countries succeed, and take them for ourselves? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. But I mean, back to a little bit of a tangent there, but back to Greg Abbott sending these buses over there. Flanked by Texas troopers on the border city of Wasilla, or not Wasilla, or I don't know how to actually say that place, to be honest. Abbott acknowledged that additional inspections for commercial vehicles into U.S. ports of entry will dramatically slow vehicle traffic coming into the country. Tough luck. That's just how it goes. Following the governor's press conference, Rep. Henry Culler, Texas Democrat, said Abbott is clearly trying to make a point to D.C. lawmakers on the issue. Yes, I don't think he's hiding that. Abbott announced several other measures, including inspection of commercial vehicles entering the state from Mexico, as many of them the governor claimed are smuggling immigrants and other illegal cargo into Texas onto the roads. The Texas Department of Public Safety will conduct enhanced safety inspections as vehicles cross international points of entry, while Abbott admits the measure will dramatically slow traffic. Yes. Additionally, the Republican revealed that beginning Thursday, the National Guard will begin its first phase of mass migration rehearsal to prepare the anticipation of surge of people crossing the border late this spring. Abbott said National Guard troops be equipped with riot gear to prevent potential caravan violence. The governor also announced that the state will implement blockades on the road to border towns. Blockades on the road border, okay. Wednesday's announcement is the first in a two-part process of preparing for the lifting of Title 42 in May. Abbott said, hinting that additional announcements will come later this week. I would love to see what's coming later this week. Over the course between today and next week, Texas will continue to evaluate press and oppose the Biden administration's open border policies and announce additional actions next week to respond to his unprecedented illegal border crossings, he continued. So, here's the point of entry. Whew. No. And that is pretty crazy. As of now, the Pentagon is not planning to send additional troops directly to the border, but seemed open to considering. Yeah, we'll see. So, Greg Abbott he's not the best governor at the moment. DeSantis definitely outdoes Abbott, but he's done a few good things, right? He's done some pretty good things. This is one of them. Making sure that D.C. feels the suffering of Texas. That is what he's hoping here, that D.C. will feel the suffering of Texas. It's funny, the Democrats say, well, he's just trying to make a point. Yeah, he's trying to make a point. And? Y'all try to make a point with every last thing y'all do. Y'all passed the anti-lynching bill as if that wasn't already illegal. You did it just to make a point. You didn't do it because it actually did anything important. This does something actually more important, though. This actually, for one, will hopefully make some people who are unaware of how bad the situation really is maybe a bit more aware when they see buses showing up after bus after bus after bus. And this is what we need more of. We need more states to assert their authority over the federal government. States have more power than they have been led to believe. When you look at the Constitution, it says anything that's not particularly given to the federal government then resides to the states. Yet the federal government has taken everything from the states. Look at something as simple as OSHA. OSHA's a good thing for the most part. They've done some good stuff overall. I mean, I think that we do need probably something kind of, I'm not big L libertarian, I'm kind of small L libertarian. So I'm not opposed to something that's OSHA-like, but it's not the federal government's responsibility. That's a state government issue. When we're talking about regulations for different businesses, that's a state government issue. It has nothing to do with the federal government. When we talk about education, it has nothing to do with the federal government. It's a state issue. When it comes to illegal immigration coming to this country, yes, this would be a federal problem, but the federal government's pushing these people onto the states, and the states need to let the government know this is unacceptable. This is not acceptable. Because again, this stuff destroys communities. It destroys communities, and more importantly, it destroys culture. And that's a big one right there. It destroys culture. You are talking about our culture being supplanted by Central and South American culture. And that's not a good thing. People go, oh, but it's so great. We get the cultural enrichment. We get cultural enrichment. Cultural enrichment of what? Failed policies? Allowing cartels to run all over us? No. There are some positives to Mexican culture, I will say. There's a lot of great positives, actually, when it comes to Mexican, Puerto Rican, or really any of the Central, especially the Central American countries in particular. One of them is they usually have very strong family units that I absolutely love. We do need more of that. They typically are more religious, which is great. These people, for the most part, I'm sure that a lot of them are good people. It doesn't mean you can just let them in unvetted, though. And again, even if you're talking about vetting, like I said before, we have too many people in here already. Our cities are already overcrowded. Infrastructure is already falling apart. Jobs are already stagnant as is, and you want to bring in even more immigration, or you don't care about who's coming into the countries, which is even worse than even upping legal immigration. Legal immigration should not be upped, let alone illegal immigration. But that is what we're dealing with now. That is what we're living with currently under our current system of government, because we have allowed the federal government to take too much control going forward here. Either way, that's all I really got for tonight. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Try to do these again, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. As well as there'll be some clips of this show, of course, popping up on YouTube all throughout next week, leading into, of course, next Thursday. So always, of course, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you've enjoyed it, hey, you know what? Leave a like. I enjoy just kind of ranting and bullshitting about politics. I'm gonna rant to someone about politics regardless. Might as well rant to y'all, right? So please, feel free to like and subscribe to a channel for more like this. And either way, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be talking again